everybody, and Unlock the Middle Land. It's Chris Starcheski, principal at Dudley Middle School, alongside my great friend and colleague, Dean Packard, the principal at Charlton Middle School. We are Unlock the Middle, and today is a very special show called Navigating Leadership, #NAV Leadership, where we explore from the principals and school leaders' eyes what is going on in schools and districts around the country. How are you today, Dean?
Hey, Chris, happy Friday to you. And I'm always getting super excited when I have an opportunity to close out a week and close out in high fashion. As you know, we just finished with term one in our building. And you know what? It gives us an opportunity to really reflect back and see the gains that we've made since we've opened up the school year, but more importantly, areas that we can improve upon to become even better going into term two. And I'll tell you tonight, or today, I should say, it's 3:00 on a Friday afternoon. We're going to be bringing in a couple of rock star principals from around the country, and we're going to be talking about, the anxiety that lays within the framework of what we're trying to complete every day. And for me, this is going to be a great conversation.
Hey, high levels of stress are healthy and unhealthy. It's all about how you approach them and how you handle them. Certainly, this time is trying and challenging, as everybody knows. This stuff ain't easy, but having a good, reliable system that we can lean on and stand on top of and maybe even hide underneath, depending on the day, is super important. So let's go ahead and get our guests in here, Dean, and see what we can do today to let folks know a little bit about the managing of anxiety in our schools.
Well, let's do that. Let's first bring in Stacy Monet from Paul R. Bard Middle School in Ludlow, Massachusetts. Stacy was a past middle marvel. She's been on our show before. Welcome back, Stacy. We're glad you're here today.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me.
Awesome that you're joining us.
And we're also going to bring in from the great state of Iowa. We have Clay Harold coming in from Grinnell Newberg Middle School. Welcome to our show, Clay. We're glad you're here, and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on as well.
Well, I'll tell you what, Chris and I were going back and forth on what we were going to talk about, and we thought, as the quarter is ending and the school year has gotten underway, we all see anxiety from different lens points. But the one thing that stays constant is we have a focus on our staff, our students, and our parents. And by that being said, I want our conversation today to be rich with thoughts and ideas about what that looks like from all of our buildings. So, Chris, why don't we start off here and let's just throw this out there. From Dudley Middle School perspective, anxiety, what are you seeing?
Yeah, one of the big things that we're seeing is a serious uptick in the need for our student support team to really be involved with our kids. We're seeing a higher than usual level of hospitalizations or crises after hours on the weekends, coming into updates from families about crises that happen, clinical type crises with kids. It's not rampant, but it's an uptick, and it certainly is directly related to kids trying to uphold what the former academic expectations were, coupled with the social expectations in an environment that doesn't really allow a comfortable connection with either of those things any longer. We're seeing increased anxiety in our teachers, in our faculty, all of our staff members. The target is changing continually, on a pendulum, but the pendulum isn't swinging simply side to side. It's going all over the place. And what we're doing is, teachers are control freaks in a good way. But because of that need for control, we're seeing a really difficult adaptation and an adaptability to the situations that we're facing each and every day. So that's, for me, one of the highest temperature items to help manage and provide resources for.
Stacy, I'm sure you're right in the same ballpark with us.
Yeah, I'm just nodding my head. So, what we're seeing really more of, as you're talking, Chris, about the pendulum swinging, is, at the beginning when students were coming into the building, you saw them. What does this look like? What are we expecting here? And then once you got through that phase and we phased them in, and we did a fantastic job. I'm pleased with how our reentry plan went. Things kind of simmer down. And as we see the build in, around the country, and we see the numbers, and we watch the news, and we watch everything tally this week. I used the word yesterday as the kids are getting off the bus. Wow, these kids are really subdued today. Like, subdued means high anxiety. These kids are like, what is going on? How much longer are we going to be in the building? And then I'm seeing this mass exit right now of parents requesting students to go fully remote.
Yep.
And then that builds on anxiety for everybody. The teachers are concerned. They want them in the building. I feel for parents. I don't blame. And I keep saying, guys, I don't blame them. This is their decision. Students are torn. They're anxious. Can I come in? Am I staying home? What am I doing? How long are we going to be in here? It's anxiety at the middle school level. And pre-COVID is such a hot word anyway. And now I'm like, I feel like we just got them settled in and then boom. I mean, I think we all knew this surge was coming, but it's hit hard and fast.
We're all from Massachusetts here. Let's take a step out to the middle of the country a little bit, Clay. And what's happening out there? I mean, I'm sure you're experiencing the exact same stuff.
Oh yeah. I hear everything's being said so far, and it's us to a T. And just in Iowa here, we have at least 3 school districts right around us within the last week that have all gone 100% virtual.
Wow.
And as of Monday, we here in Grinnell will be doing the same thing. All of our students will be at home. And, we had high levels of stress coming into the school year with students and staff alike. We were seeing behavioral issues and just outbursts in students that really weren't even there before. And just the high emotional and traumatic events, being away from school as long as we were out in March 13th here in Iowa, and we never returned to school. So, I mean, it's been a very real struggle. Our staff has been tasked with trying to do the in-person schooling and trying to navigate an online world that they've never done before.
Yeah.
And the need for more time it's been very challenging for them.
Yeah, challenging is an understatement, and I absolutely agree with you. And, if we peel back this a little bit and get into the weeds and we talk specifically about our staff and what are we doing to keep our staff keep their head above water. We can all say that we greet and we're there and we're there for them to listen and they can talk to us. But what other things are you doing to make sure your staff feels that they're comfortable? Clay, why don't you start off with that?
Sure. So we've kind of dug a little bit into recently just appreciation language and what that looks like for certain staff members. Some staff members, we've gotten some feedback from them that, words of affirmation really matter to them. And then we've heard from other teachers that, just an act of service, like, hey, if somebody could cover a recess duty for me, if someone could pick up my MTSS period just once in a great while, just that little extra something to try to free up some more time for people, that has spoken volumes. And everybody receives and appreciates different things. So just trying to meet teachers where they are and help get understanding from them, like, this works for me. This makes me feel good. Allowing, one teacher came to me the other day and said, well, since you've allowed us to leave after the buses leave on Fridays, like, that has meant the world to me. And even though I pretty much go home and just work for the next couple hours anyway, like, just having the flexibility to choose, that you appreciate my time enough to allow me to be a professional and then still have that work-life balance. And that just, everybody has their own different needs, but, really finding out and digging into what they need makes a big difference.
Stacy?
So I think that the biggest thing here is, and you guys have heard me say this before, is just full transparency. I have said numerous times, even months before this all happened, is everybody has my cell number. And I've navigated a lot of phone calls over the weekend. The letter goes out from the superintendent. We have a positive case in the district. Everybody's anxiety. And I say, just call me. Just call me. I will talk you off the ledge. Just call me. We started out this year with our motto being all hands on deck. And there's a lot of times that I'm saying to teachers repeatedly, check yourself. Check yourself. We are all in this. If you are feeling like you can't, hold on to what's going on, take a walk, call the office. My assistant and I, you guys got to meet Mary. We would be more than happy to come in and take over your class for as long as we need to. Like, this is high stress on everybody. Just the amount of learning they've had to do this type of teaching is just incredible. That is enough stress in itself, without everything else added to it. So if I could say anything, it's like, check yourself, make sure that your emotions are in check, because kids are watching. The world is watching education right now. So I don't mind taking the phone calls. I don't. And I keep saying that they're like, we don't want to bother you on the weekend. No, that's my job. It is. Like it or not, that's my job. I would rather you have a 5-minute conversation with me. Let me talk you off the ledge, and then you can enjoy your weekend, and so can I. So.
Yeah, I'm sitting here listening to both Clay and you, Stacy. Yeah, it's spot on. One of the things that I'm focusing on is continuing to build. Let them remember that they're trusted. I don't need to be managing their student learning plans. I don't need to know what their assessment schedule is. I don't need to know that they're lockstep with a colleague down the hall. Let them teach as best that they can in the environment that they're in. Now, some folks are really struggling with that because they feel that the trust and the free reign means that we're disconnected and that there's a lack of care and there's a lack of focus. But welcome to the world of trying to balance it as a principal, right? Like Clay mentioned, everybody's got a certain preference. We can give positive praise in a morning message. Some folks will take that as positive praise. Others will take that as being a little bit snarky and flippant, and it is what it is. We can't make everybody happy all the time, but what we can do is let everybody know that Stacy, you nailed it. We are there for them all the time. And it's not about being happy with what the problem is that's coming in. It's about being understanding and caring, compassionate and realistic about what it is that we're hearing and going through together. And that for me is more what it's about. It's about the togetherness, and that we're going to get it wrong and we're going to get it wrong again, but we're not going to get it wrong in the same way. It'll be okay in the end. We'll be better for this.
And I kept saying to my staff throughout all of this is the only way we're getting through this is together.
Yeah. And that's not going to change. And, and I equate it back to the proverbial hamster wheel that keeps spinning. And every step we take, we're not going anywhere. So we're managing chaos is what we're doing. And we're trying to provide the best possible outcome. Within our district and our administrative team, we decided to bring in, we call it the Dunkin' Donuts Crisis Mobile. They're going to be at our schools starting next week, and where teachers can go and get coffees and bagels and donuts. And, each school has a day doing that. And that went over very, very well. Small contribution from an administrative level to let them know that they're appreciated. And it kind of set the tone going into Thanksgiving about what we can do to give back. And we can never lose sight of that, because they are the engine that makes us who we are as leaders. And they need to know that they feel that they are supported, that they can come into our office and talk to us freely, mind you. Whatever's on your mind. If you need to punch, kick, scrap, throw things, that's okay. But please know that we're the shield that's going to help you get through this. And when we do get through it, we're going to be better off because of it. Let's swing backwards, Chris. I'm going to go back to you with this. How about students in the building? One of the areas, what we do is all about students. How are we keeping them in check?
Yeah, I'm struggling with this, Dean. I'll be honest. The kids are getting off the bus. They're walking in two separate doorways, 5th, 7th, and 6th and 8th. They're going straight to their home room with their masks on. They're sitting down at their desks, and then they're going right into learning at that desk. And then 3.5 to 4 hours later, they're standing up and walking out. And it's very difficult to, maintain a high level of engagement, a high level of relationship with the kids like we're used to. And, we're trying to find ways to bring back some normal. What activities can we provide, those co-curriculars that we can actually run? Can we do show choir virtually? Yes, we can. You know what? That's going to be coming. We can do jazz band. We can do math team. We can do student council. We can do National Junior Honor Society. It's going to feel different. It's going to look different, but it's going to be there for the kids. And that's going to really get us some wind underneath our wings. I do think, though, that what's going really well is the student support team's connection with the teachers to the kids and their families. They're working very hard and very smart to make sure that anytime a teacher notices something off with a child, a member of this team is meeting them right where they're at that door, and letting them know that we've got them and they've got us. One simple message. So that is a struggle being in a middle school. I'll be honest. I'm having a tough time with it.
That's fair. Kick it over to you, Stacy.
I don't know of any principal right now that I've spoken to that's not struggling. And I've said this, you guys heard me say this the other day, like, we don't know what our role is right now. If you're a principal like me that's out in the building all the time, it's a very hard, these 6th graders who I've yet to meet, who have never been in the building, that I walk in the other day and one kid was like, "Are you the principal?" And I was like, "Oh, how did this happen?" Yes, yeah, I'm the principal. Like, not like you're embarrassed. I'm like, I am not that kind of principal. I think we have to give ourselves a little bit of a break, saying like, this is not the norm. I did have a teacher the other day that called down to the office, and she said, I've got a group up here that have some questions. Do you mind coming up? It was probably the best 15, 20 minutes of my entire day. They were just like, what about this? And what happened? And it was talk about anxiety. What happens if, Mrs. Such and such has COVID? What happens with us? Where do we go from here? And I was like, they were all questions that I'm sure they were all simmering and didn't know who to ask. Mm-hmm. And I walked out and I said to the teacher, thank you. Thank you for coming to the source. Thank you for inviting me up to stand in front of them to say, listen, I'm worried too. And I keep saying, if I'm not hitting the panic button, don't any of you hit the panic button. When I hit the panic button, we better all start running. So I feel like I'm struggling with what I can do to still get the clubs up and running virtually. My fear is if we're going to go remote again, the spring was a nightmare for me. I was like, what do I do? I can pop into Zooms, but what's the joy in that? They're like, why is Mrs. Monette in here? You know what I mean? I'm going to really encourage teachers to invite me up more often. The problem is I don't have a lot of kids in my building right now. So I'm struggling with that. It's a tough one to navigate.
Kick it over to you, Clay.
I hear you, Stacy. I mean, we're going to go from 450 kids here on a daily basis to 0 on Monday. So, when we had our staff meeting yesterday and kind of announced and broke the news to everybody that this is the direction we had to go due to our health situation in our state and in our county, one teacher commented, like, I felt like we were finally just starting to get into a groove, and one parent or one of the teachers asked about, what about athletics and some of those things, like, as of Monday, they are discontinued until we can come back. We'll try to do some more virtual club type things. We do have some partnerships with Grinnell College here in town with an art club, and we do have a drama club that's kind of run through the high school that they've had some Zoom connections. We have a Dungeons and Dragons club, and we have a Harry Potter book club, and some of those things. Those things can still operate in a virtual environment, but I haven't even had a chance to meet with my success team again to really recalibrate where are we going to go from here, because we are going to have kids that are significantly struggling. I will say the nice thing about Iowa right now is that we had to basically apply for a waiver to go online, and it's only for a short period of time, pending updated health situations, and then we can reapply, so who knows what's going to actually happen. But I'm looking forward to December 3rd when we can hopefully get kids back in here. And hopefully continue to resume some normalcy. We actually had a basketball game here with 7th and 8th grade last night, and it was wonderful. But yeah, the struggle is real, and we do have some, of course, now very heightened anxiety in our staff about how are we going to keep these kids connected, and in what ways can we still provide alternative co-curricular opportunities for them.
We're all thinking about it from the same angle. And I say to myself, I'm looking to start a virtual student voice, which is on Wednesdays, where any student can join. It's a leadership administrative team, but it's still virtual. And the piece that they're missing is being next to one another, to feel that energy around their friends. I know it's a substitute, but it's a step towards allowing them to have some normalcy outside the walled curriculum, where, here's the topic we're going to talk about. This is a free-for-all. Let's go. Let's bounce it back and forth with one another, and do that in grade 5, grade 6, grade 7, and grade 8, and just say, here's a half hour with the principals. What's on your mind? Let's talk, and build upon that, especially as we're looking for creative ways to get them to turn on their cameras when they're doing remote learning and engage and find meaning in owning their own learning. Such difficult topics for kids to comprehend. And to me, that's tough. And I don't see us getting back into that in-person stuff for quite a while. I'll be very honest with you. So we need to navigate and provide more forums for kids. And that's the challenge. And again, that kind of excites me as a leader, because it forces me to think outside my comfort zone and saying, what can I provide as a new forum for kids? Let's take it back one other direction. Let's talk about parents and guardians and caregivers. Their frustration is through the roof as well. And there's no doubt about that. I received 4 phone calls today. I'm at my breaking point. What are you going to do for me, Mr. Packard? And you know what? The greatest thing I can do is listen to them and then try to help them process. So let's go work it backwards. Clay, how about you out in your school? What are you getting from parents and caregivers?
High levels of anxiety. I would say one thing, and I know my staff has kind of gone back and forth. We've gone back and forth on this a little bit, is, as the cases have risen and, the gets worse, allowing students and parents, flexibility. Okay, some they had their students at home and then they wanted to return them to school, so we've been flexible with that. Some had their students in school to start, and then I'm just not sure. There's just a lot of fear, and trying to be flexible with our families, and like you said, Dean, just to try to give them the opportunity to be heard, give them the opportunity, us to try to problem solve with them and in collaboration with them. It makes such a huge difference. And I feel like we were finally, like my teacher referenced yesterday, we were finally kind of getting into a little bit of a groove. I will say today, since late yesterday afternoon, evening, when we announced we were going to have to make this decision, I've had an outpouring of just positivity from families. It's just been incredible. They're so appreciative of us making the effort and going as long as we could, and they look forward to the day when we can resume in-person school. So, but just being a team and working together to try to find, and sometimes it is case by case. It really is. It's hard to have just blanket statements for scenarios that we've never encountered before or haven't been encountered for in this country in over 100 years. So, just trying to continue to problem solve and brainstorm. It makes all the difference to us.
Stacy?
So Clay and you have had a good run. I know people didn't hear this beforehand, but 90% in your building up until this point is a good run. Like, kudos to you, because my numbers are not 90%. I wish they were, but I get it. I get parents' anxiety. The one thing I wanted to mention that I think, middle school, I don't know if you guys do the teaming concept, but which is why I love middle school. It's, we work in teams. We've had a few students who not doing so well. Of course, they want to be, we call it cohort C, they want to be fully remote. And it's conversations with me, with whoever's at home saying, really think they need to be in the building. And, mom saying he's got asthma. I'm feeling real anxious about this. And we've actually, you guys heard me say there's no rules in COVID. We've actually set up solo spaces within our building for these students. I'm like, what about if I put them in a conference room all by themselves? They work, that's their own workspace. They don't have to interact with anybody else. And they're like, you would do that? Absolutely. I want your kid in the building. I want the grades to go up. Last week, I had 2 boys come in and I was so excited to make a big deal, give them a little extra attention. I was like, here's your space. Here you are. That's one thing that I think parents are like, you can do that. Yeah. And it's remarkable to me to think that parents don't think we can do that. I'm like, absolutely. That's easy. Bring them in. We got free lunch. We've got free breakfast. We can feed them. We can give them their own space, unique case by case. But I would do that for all of these students if I could, just to get them in my building. I just 90%. I wish I could have 90% back in my building. I miss my students in the building. I do. So kudos to you. You had a good run. I keep saying this. I'm here picking up my daughter, and I said, you had a good run. She's a freshman in college. It's a good run. Yeah. But time's up.
Yep. Yeah, to extend a little, not really much further, because both Clay and Stacy really captured it. We're a public school, but we are a customer service center. Moms and dads are entrusting us with their most valuable commodity, and that's their children. And this is scary stuff. I've got 3 kids in the district. I've got a junior, a 7th grader here in my building, and I've got a 4th grader in the elementary school ready to come to me next year. So I get it from the parent perspective. I can look at it from different angles, though. So I can understand the parent perspective, but I also understand the school perspective very well. Parents are coming to us with questions out of fear and out of concern. And depending on the situation, I'm going to talk to them parent to parent. Sometimes I'll talk to them principal to parent or educator to parent. Sometimes I'll just talk to them as Coach Chris, from the sidelines, because I've coached all their kids because I'm from town. But we'll always work to find a resolution that is in the best interest of the child and most likely in the best interest of the family. And if we have to get creative, like Stacy just shared, we'll try and get creative. If we have to go ahead and think outside the box and come up with something that will satisfy the big concern, we'll go ahead and do that as best we can. And if we can't, we'll be honest with them. We'll say, we understand, and we can't go in that direction because. And we'll give them the legit reason for the because. But it's that source to source direct communication about the concern that's most important. And that's something that I would think, and Dean and I are in the same district, albeit separate towns. We both approach this in a very similar way. Let's go ahead and solve the problem to help the child or to help mom or dad. and of course our educators.
Sometimes trying to clarify and the reasonable expectations of the time is very hard, because I think every family sees that differently. And, and some of the things that I've had to do to talk people back off the ledge and just say, hey, listen, this is a blip in history. We will be back eventually. Things will get back to normal. But for right now, we're going to be remembered as educators on how we were able to be amenable, to be able to adjust, and to be able to help kids access curriculum from the entry point that they're at. And that is the biggest part of this, because it is different for everybody. You want to talk about differentiation. Now is the time where it's probably at its highest level and ever I can imagine in my 29 years in education and 19 being an administrator. So, let's pivot back for one more thing here. Let's just talk about our support staff for a second. Let's talk about our nurses, school psychologists, adjustment counselors, assistant principals. What are we doing to ensure that they are in a good place in our building? With secretaries, I want to put them in there too, because they are the front line of who the people see when they come to that door every day. What are you doing in your buildings to making sure that everyone is polished and primed and ready to go each day? Chris, let's throw it back that way.
Yeah. So our student support team, which does include, our office support staff, is continuously meeting. I mean, the way our building is structured, we're all together in a massive office suite. So we see one another every day. But our administrative secretaries in the front office know that they're our front line. They know they're the first person that is seen or heard by an outside guest, be it on the phone or face to face or over the camera when they approach the door. They know the importance of their role because we remind them of it continuously. Our student support team meets on a weekly basis, but they're tasked with a high level of responsibility. We expect the members of the student support team to operate autonomously, but within a structure that's got tight communication amongst all team members. So if counselor A is working with a student, counselor B and C need to understand a little bit about what's going on there in case counselor A is not able to meet the needs of that child at a point in time. Our school nurse is of the same ilk. Everything that she does is in her house. She keeps her house in order. She lets assistant principal, Mr. Tucker, and myself know what it is that we need to know in the event that, we get a call or blindsided. But the importance of the messaging is really key. We're a team, we're in it together, and it's important for the left hand to know what the right hand is doing.
Stacy?
So I'm going to follow up on that because I think, through all this from the very beginning, and I just want to say, if anybody's noticed the irony of this, so this happened on Friday, March 13th, and it's Friday the 13th right now.
It is.
Actually, I am a superstitious person, but just wanted to throw that out there. I've seen the anxiety rise in my front office. I've seen the anxiety in my secretary. And admittedly, I've had to kind of check myself more than once and go back and go, I'm really sorry. You have to she's there by herself right now. And, there's the plexiglass. There's no warm, fuzzy feeling. Nobody went into this for plexiglass and don't come in my office. You're not allowed. We have the door locked. It's terrible. It's not warm and cozy. It's awful. The one I'm worried about the most right now is my school nurse, because she is, I'm in there every day. The stress that I think I had in the spring, I'm recognizing now in her, because the brunt is on her. She's tracking who's out, who's on quarantine, who's testing positive, who's doing this, what kid's out. She's got it. I'm worried about her. So every day, you doing okay? What can I do for you? What load can I take off from you? But I think the most important part about this is that everybody knows their role and everybody knows their job, and how quickly this formed from March on. And even with every phase on how quickly we identify as systems, like, checks and balances. Okay, you're going to do this. Okay, I'm going to do this. We meet once a week, the whole admin team. Everybody talks about, you talk to this person. It's checks and balances. It's a lot of moving parts. I keep saying that. Everybody, though, knows their role, and it just works, which I'm so thankful for. I just can't wait to go back to warm and fuzzy.
Yeah.
I miss it.
Clay?
Chris and Stacy, you two both really nailed a lot of this already. I think this has been maybe one of the most challenging areas. I can say, as overwhelmed and stressed out as I know our teachers and our para-educators are, we're still very mindful and are able to give them their contractual rights, their duty-free lunches, their prep periods, that kind of thing. Whereas some of our support staff it's hard to make sure that they get those opportunities during the day. I mean, I've like my admin assistants out here, we have 2 of them. I've had to kind of kick them out of the office sometimes. Like, have you taken your lunch yet? Have you gotten your break? Like it's almost 1:45, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I haven't seen you out of here. Like, and I've been in and out, but oh yeah, get out. Get out. You need to make sure you're taking care of yourself. Take that you time. Like, you need to recharge your battery, even if it's only for 15, 20 minutes, whatever it may be. One of the most fortunate things our school district did this summer, and I'm so thankful that we did this, is we hired basically a nurse assistant for this COVID time. And we hit a home run with that hire. So we have been more than fortunate, because I know our nurse is amazing, and she never misses, and she refuses to back down and take that time. But we're just very fortunate there. But we're always making sure that left hand knows what the right's doing. I think you said that, Chris. Like, that's so important. Like, we just have to make sure that we're mindful of each other. And I do think we communicate well and we collaborate with each other, and we just make sure to look out for one each other, have each other's backs when that time comes. And sometimes you have to be willing to say, and I've had to do that to a couple. You need a break. You need to tap out. Like, go. Get out of here. Like, you've reached your limit, whether it be interacting with a student or whether there's just whatever the need or whatever the circumstances that has arisen that is just driving that stress. You got to recharge, take some time, get out of here. And it's worked for us thus far, but we'll see how it changes, as we move to a different learning environment here on Monday.
Well, it's interesting you say that, and I see it from my lens, and I'm looking at that fairway shrinks drastically with our student support team. And again, the focus remains solely on the need of students and the need of families. But don't get anybody wrong. Teachers are working. They're not leaving at 2:30. Teachers are working till 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night. That hasn't changed. Absolutely. That takes a toll on everybody. It takes a toll on the entire system. The bad thing is, I think the persona that's in the public, they don't see it that way, because it's not a tangible thing they can put their hands on. Yeah. And a lot of times I find myself backpedaling and trying to understand that frustration from a parent or whatnot, and help them understand that teachers do care. They care greatly about kids. We wouldn't be in this business if we didn't. It's very difficult to make things perfect all the time. You're not going to do it in this non-perfect world. So our focus really has to be really streamlined in, and I think a student support team does that. Nurses, psychologists, adjustment counselors, we're all on the same page. And my AP, my right-hand guy, Peter Olson, I mean, he's there all the time, and he's got the pulse of the school going on right underneath his thumb. So, these are all important parts, and they don't get the true credit that they deserve for keeping the ship running, especially during times like these. So, yeah, this is so interesting, and where does it go? And you hope that 2 or 3 months down the road there's a vaccine, and that we are moving back into that next phase of bringing kids back into school. But in our state, we got a governor that is stating that, let's get kids back in. We understand that they're not carriers, and at the same time, hospitals are filling up with COVID cases. You've got a double-ended shift here, and where this is going to end up, we all kind of know. And do a lot of praying to make sure that we follow all the things that we can control.
I was watching a recap of a video a while ago as I was, thinking about stress and anxiety and mindset, right? So I came across a behavioral psychologist. Her name was Kelly McGonigal. I think she's out of Stanford. And I think I saw her originally in a TED Talk back in, I don't know when. It was 2013 or something like that. But her entire presentation was on stress and anxiety as a health benefit to you. And she went into the biology of stress and how, with the right understanding and mindset, the chemical reaction that is caused by stress actually stimulates portions of the brain and stimulates cell generation in the heart to actually give you a healthier heart and a healthier mind. But only in certain cases. And in the certain cases that Dr. McGonigal was focusing on, it was people with the mindset that stress is healthy, stress is not going to kill me, stress is not going to hurt me. Did these people actually have very positive experiences with stressors and anxiety in a variety of studies? So I guess where I'm going with this is, if you've got the right mindset and you've got the right kind of central belief system about what your purpose is, what your mission is, and I think what she said was, if you're chasing meaning instead of trying to avoid discomfort. You're going to be better for the stress you've experienced if you're trying to chase meaning and not avoid discomfort. So do what's challenging, do what's hard, because you're going to end up being better for it in the end, because you'll have achieved additional goals and you'll have, modeled and given an example for others to show that you care, which is going to in turn pay back the heart, pay back the mind, and keep you moving forward. So anyway, I tend to be a glass half water kind of guy. I tend to wear rose-colored glasses an awful lot. But I do think that is related to why when I start to get stressed, I'm not afraid to share with a support system. Dean's in that group. We got, Principal Chaplain up at the Hill, and I've got a couple other colleagues from outside the district. But having that support network to be able to just unload is really important. And you're not even looking for a solution. You're just looking to unload sometimes.
And Unlock the Middle has provided us with that platform, Chris, to meet up with a lot of principals and leaders across the country, and let alone around the world. We're not in this alone. The things we do there, we're in it together, and we got to make sure that we feel okay about who we are and what we're doing. I'll do self-checks with staff members that I have a lot of trust in. I'll walk in the room and say, listen, I'm going to sit down for a second and tell me what I'm doing good, and tell me where I can improve. And I get brutal honesty from them. And, and I'll pick and choose. And I'll even go to some people that, I feel as though sometimes we disagree with one another.
Yep.
And I think it's important to hear from them what their viewpoint is on my leadership abilities during this time period. It's tough, and it's not easy. Hey, let's go 15 seconds around the horn right here. We're going to start with Clay. Final thing you're going to say here about anxiety and where we're going. It's a tough topic to close out on, but let's bring it home. It's a little round robin.
Well, I know as far as anxiety goes, I think it's important that we know and understand ourselves and what our thermostat really is and where we have our breaking tip, and making sure that we take care of ourselves, whatever that means it is.
Stacy.
So I'm going to say I'm a glass half full too, and I feel like there are going to be some silver linings out of this. We're not seeing them yet, but I keep saying to anybody that will listen to me, there's some silver linings here. And one of those is, you talk about when the stress happens, the staff leans in, and I just said this the other day. The staff leans in hard, and then we come up with the most amazing solutions, and like the innovation that's happened. That's a silver lining that we're not going to forget.
Chris.
Oh. I don't know what I can really add at this point. I do think that the biggest piece to acknowledge is that, everybody has, again, like Clay mentioned, a different breaking point, a different level of stress tolerance. Just that it's that what Stacy said, this is a togetherness activity. The less isolation we have, the better we're going to be. And we've got to be willing to put ourselves out there and just be reliant on others at a time, that we're in.
I'm extremely proud of the staff that I have in my building. 100 people come together each and every day to put the kids' best interest first. And if we can maintain that, and I can support that, and I can continue to foster their abilities to believe in themselves, meaning the teachers and the educators, we're going to be okay, and we're going to be better than okay. We're going to be above average, and we're going to continue to seek ways to make kids get through this pandemic. So, hey, listen, Chris, going to kick it back to you to close it out. You are my staple here. Take it home.
Well, thanks, Dean. But more importantly, thanks to Stacy and Clay. You guys were awesome today. Clay Harold, the principal at Grinnell Newburgh Middle School in Grinnell, Iowa. We haven't had an Iowan on our show yet. And we've got a repeat performer, Stacy Monette, principal at Paul R. Baird Middle School in Ludlow, Mass. Thanks so much for being here, the both of you, to talk about managing anxiety in schools. Dean and I, formed this platform to be able to share with colleagues and expand our PLN and build a resource library and strong connections. So thank you both for being a part of that connectedness that we have. Everybody out there in Unlock the Middle Land, be sure to watch some promo information coming at you for Sunday night show, 7 p.m. before the Pats kick off against the Ravens. Let's see how that result is going to be out there on Sunday night. But I'm pretty fired up for our show. I'm fired up for the game. I'm fired up for the weekend. It's Friday afternoon. Be well, be safe, be supportive of one another, and work hard to be better out there, everybody.